Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even true crime.
This doesn't really fit in any of those categories, though.
It is crime. A
It
crime
is, but
happened.
it's not the crime that we normally talk about.
It's not. Nobody was murdered. Nothing was stolen. It kind of.
Definitely not a serial killer case.
Definitely not.
But what it is one of the worst cases of child abuse and neglect.
Well, yeah. And I've mentioned before, my degree is in early childhood development.
Mine is not.
But hers is not, no. And I first became aware of this case in college. We talked about it in one of my 4 million psychology classes that we had to take. It was one of the developmental psychology classes, and we talked about this case and how remarkable it was to be able to look at this case, to have this, as awful as it is, to base some theories that we had off of this case. I was so intrigued with it because we talk a lot in child development about nature and nurture and what is based on what. And we talk a lot about developmental critical periods and what happens if you miss a critical period. This case kind of has it all. It kind of has everything. And so I wanted to talk about it because it is technically a crime, but it's the probably worst case of emotional and mental abuse ever. Probably not the worst physical abuse.
It really wasn't much physical abuse. It was all
right, all mental and
neglect.
Yeah,
But I think it was neglect to an extent that the neglect became physical abuse.
Yeah. So if you're sitting at home and wondering what in the
or
world,
in your car, because this is a podcast, I listen to mine in the car.
That's true. If you, whatever you're doing right now, if you're wondering what in the world we're talking about today, we're talking about Genie, the feral child.
And Genie is not her real name, of course.
No, it's not. Actually, I do know her real name, and I don't know if we should use it.
Let's just go with no. Although, despite the fact she is still alive, but the state of California has really gone to the extreme in making sure that her identity stays protected and the location of where she is stays protected.
Right, because when we get into it, you'll understand why they're protecting her. So, I want to first talk about her parents and kind of setting the stage for that, because I do feel like that has a huge basis on what happened.
It does. Normal parents, normal people don't make the decisions that this couple did.
Right. So, Genie was born to Clark and Dorothy Wiley. And Clark's parents actually gave him a feminine name. And I don't know what that feminine name is because he later in life changed it to Clark.
But Clark is now a unisex name. I know girls named Clark.
Yeah. He apparently hated his name. And I kept thinking of that song boy named Sue. But he apparently hated his name and was picked on. It was just bad news, right? So he changed his name, and then he joined the Air Force, USAF. He joined the USAF. And he was a flight mechanic during World War II, which at the time I guess that wasn't USAF, it was still the Army Air, but
which our grandfather was part of.
He was. But we're going to call it USAF anyway.
Okay. Papa would laugh at you.
Everybody laughs at me. Like, that was a running joke between me and Ernie about the whole USAF thing.
Well, you know what? If they don't call it that, they should. 'Cause that's just cool.
I know. that came about when we did the episode about time slips.
Yes.
And there was a story where someone from the royal, I can never say that. I can never say royal. I don't know why I can't say that. Someone from the royal.
It's because we grew up in a rural area.
And we don't talk right because we're from Eastern Kentucky. Anyway, he was from the Royal Air Force. And for like 90% of the episode, I was calling it RAF because I'm dumb.
No.
And it wasn't until the very end where Heather said Royal Air Force. And I was like, oh, that's what RAF stands for.
But you know what, Holly? I have friends who live in England and they refer to it as RAF.
Yeah. So our England friends, I'm sorry, I'm stupid.
And unless you refer to it as RAF also, and then you're cool.
Yeah. But now the United States Air Force is USAF. So the mom, Dorothy, was 20 years old and she was fleeing Oklahoma because it was during the Dust Bowl period.
Most people were fleeing Oklahoma.
Most people were fleeing, yeah. So she ended up coming to California with some family friends and she met Clark. Well, actually, I guess we should say, when she was a child, she had a head injury. It almost always starts with a head injury. She had a head injury, and that caused some neurological problems and a degenerative eye problem. So she slowly started going blind. Clark grew up in and out of orphanages, and his dad died of a lightning strike. And like I said, his mom actually ran a brothel. I know, isn't that weird? And his mom ran a brothel. And so she hardly saw him. That's why he was in and out of foster homes.
Although, Mom's husband has been struck by lightning like 3 times. That explains a lot, too.
Yeah, it does. Anyway, then like I said, he had, and in addition to all of that, he had a feminine name. And he just had a lot of anger issues and resentment and I don't know, but they got married.
I can understand, though, his issues.
I can, too.
He had a very interestingly bad childhood.
Right. And then you've got the mom who, with the head injury and the going blind.
And, that's not to say that everybody who has a rough childhood is going to grow up to do really screwed up things.
Right. Well, and that's kind of where nature nurture comes back into play. I mean, Heather and I had a not wonderful childhood, and we grew up in a very bad neighborhood where probably 90% of the people there get into drugs and prostitution if they don't escape. I mean, seriously, if they don't escape, 90% of them will end up doing drugs, selling drugs, both. I couldn't tell you the number of people that I went to elementary school with that has died of drug overdose. I mean, that's just our neighborhood it was just that bad.
But we turned out
nothing. We turned out fine. We also escaped.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't go on in life to abuse kids or anything. I'm not letting my kids come in here because just joking.
They'll scream, "Oh my God, Mom, you're lying!"
So anyway, they got married, and he wouldn't let his wife go home. I mean, he kind of kept her with him. She wasn't allowed to do anything, and he would beat her, and her eyes just started getting worse and worse.
He detached one of her retinas.
Yeah, in one of the beatings, her retina got detached, and she was pretty much dependent on him completely. Now, I don't know. This next part, though. He hated kids and hated noise, and yet she gets pregnant 4 times.
Well, I mean, you also got to consider the time period that this was. This was, the 50s. I don't think that reliable birth control was really, super available.
Well, that's true. But they had, the first child was a girl, and she got pneumonia because the dad could not stand her crying. I mean, she is a baby.
Babies cry, except for Emmy.
Yeah, Emmy was such a zen child. She never cried.
Unless I touched her. If I picked her up, she cried. She hated me until she was like 3.
Yeah, so this baby was 10 weeks old. And they put her in a garage because she was crying. Well, she gets pneumonia and she dies. The second baby was a boy, and he is RH incompatible, and he died 2 days later. And they don't know if it was the RH incompatibility or if he was choking on mucus. Then 3 years later, they had another son, and he was also RH incompatible, but he was fine. The dad forced him to be quiet. Like, he was not allowed to make any sounds. So he was very delayed in speech.
Until his maternal grandmother swooped in and rescued him at 4.
Yeah, right. But then the grandmother died, so he ended up moving back in with his parents about the time that Genie is born. And Genie, okay, so when Genie was born, the dad was starting to show exhibits of mental instability.
And he was starting to withdraw. He was at this point still keeping Genie's mother very isolated. And he started isolating himself at this point.
Right. And so Genie was a very average child. She was born 50th percentile in weight. She was also RH incompatible, and she had to have a blood transfusion. But everything else was fine. 3 months later, she was gaining weight normal. Everything was fine. But they found out that she had a congenital hip dislocation, and she had to wear a restrictive splint. And this was 4.5 months to 11 months, something like that. And it delayed her walking. Now, the father took this to mean that she was mentally impaired. Never mind the fact that she's had a splint on her leg for all of these months when she's supposed to be walking. So a doctor told him that she might be mildly mentally delayed and that she should be taken care of. Well, the dad took this to mean, let's keep her isolated in a dark room, locked in a bedroom, surrounded by chicken wire at night, and strapped to a potty chair during the day. And this poor baby stayed this way until she was 13 years old.
Think about that. Just put that in your mind. A baby, a child, going her whole life trapped in one room. Alternating by either being chained to her potty chair or chained to a bed with absolutely no interaction. That's beyond bleak.
Oh, I know. And when she was in her crib, her arms and legs were immobilized, so she could never move. I think she had like a hand was able to be left, like she was able to move like a hand. Nobody was allowed to interact with her. Nobody was allowed to talk to her. The dad growled and hissed and acted like a animal to frighten her so that she would not make any sound. And she was only fed mushy food, like baby food, and not much of it because she was so malnourished. I just cannot even comprehend this. The mom got mad at the dad and told him that she was going to go visit her parents, that she was tired of being basically held hostage. So on November 4th, 1970, the mom, the grandma, and Genie accidentally walk into the social services office. They thought that they were walking into the office to apply for disability benefits for the mom for being blind, but they end up walking into a social worker's office, and immediately the social worker was like, wait a second, this is not this is not right. They were able to, I don't know, swoop in kind of and take care of her.
When she got to the hospital, she was 4'6" and weighed 59
50.
pounds.
I could not even. I am 4'10". At my before I got pregnant, I was 4'10" and weighed 93 pounds. And I will tell you that I was too skinny. So I could not even imagine being 59 pounds.
The doctors estimated that her bone age was that of an 11-year-old. Ophthalmologist testing showed that she had absolutely perfect eyesight, but she couldn't focus on anything that was more than 10 feet away from her because her entire life had been a tiny room.
Yeah, she was never able to, her vision was never able to adjust for perception. Very, very rarely she was allowed to play with some plastic food containers or old spools of thread, TV guides.
Things that normal children do not play with.
Right. So the room had blacked out windows, and he left them open just slightly.
That actually probably saved her vision.
Yeah, really.
The fact that, she did have some awareness of light and dark and daylight.
Oh, I couldn't imagine if it was a blackout all the time, like how awful that would have been. Because I know there's been studies done of like kittens that were born like under houses where no light was able to get to them, and they were blind because they're in that critical eye opening period. There was no light.
She couldn't eat. She couldn't swallow soft foods. Pretty much she would keep food in her mouth until her saliva broke it down.
And then if she kept it in too long, she would spit it out, because if she didn't, her dad would have beat her or stopped feeding her. And I think at first the social worker thought that she was autistic.
I can see that.
Yeah. But, yeah, both parents were arrested, and she became a ward of the court.
She is still a ward of the state of California.
She is. Anyway, she was studied really intensely for many years. And this is where, I don't know, I'm unhappy with this. That this poor girl,
she became a guinea
had
pig.
been through so much already, and she pretty much became a guinea pig. Yeah.
I can understand the desire to study her. Because, she was this 13-year-old girl who was mentally a 13-month-old.
Yeah.
She couldn't fully extend her arms. She couldn't, she could not do so much stuff. Yet, I mean, there was no reason for it.
So she started improving. She had really good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, because she had before her father strapped her to that chair, she had no mental impairments.
Right, none.
She would have been a fine person.
Yeah. So she would hoard items if she liked them. She would take it and like hide them. Which, I mean, I guess that she was afraid that her dad was going to come and take them from her. She liked colorful things. Anything with like a lot of color, she really liked.
Like a baby.
Mm-hmm. Also, like a baby, she took pleasure in dropping and destroying little small objects. I mean, like, how many times have, kids shove plates off of high chairs because it's funny?
Or thrown their shoe out of the shopping cart, or...
Yeah.
Picked up their pacifier out of their mouth and hurled it across the room.
I wouldn't know about that. My kids never had pacifiers.
I know. I would love to have violent outbursts against her parents.
Oh, I know. I'm right there with you. In June 1971, Jean Butler became Genie's first foster home.
I don't really know if I would have made the decision to put her in foster homes.
I know, but I mean, where else would they put her?
True. But, I mean, it's just...
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if foster homes is the right fit for her.
Well, definitely not some of the foster homes that she ended up in. So while in Jean Butler's care, it was temporary, and she started puberty, and she started having remarkable improvements on physical health, and she was able to do things for herself. Like she was able to dress herself. Um, she learned some words. They learned that she was terrified of dogs and cats, though.
Well, she probably had never even seen one.
Well, she hadn't, and then it doesn't help that the fact that her dad would growl at her.
Yeah.
So the mom would come and visit Genie, but the mom always felt like she was being judged for allowing this to happen to her daughter.
The mom should not have been allowed to have visitation. I mean, I know that the mom was being abused also, but
I know that the mom just had a timid personality and allowed herself to be.
that couple should never have brought a child into the world to begin with.
I know.
And this just goes, not everyone should be parents.
I know, and that's why I am always so happy when people recognize that in themselves and decide not to. Like we have a couple that's friends of ours that are adamant that they do not want kids. I think they would be great parents.
They would be
They're
amazing
super
parents.
active in all kinds of things. Like, you know, he is a assistant band director. She works with his color guard. They do all kinds of youth stuff with their church.
He's the pastor of the church now, Holly.
I know, but okay.
Before that, they were with the youth group, very active, always taking their church children on trips, but they know that they do not want children.
Yeah, they're like, these are our kids, and we enjoy doing this, but having a baby or a toddler and running to school events, and no, that's just not for us. And I admire that they recognize that in themselves, even though I still say that they would be great parents. So the second foster home, she was with one of the people that worked with her during all of her testing, David Rigler. And they had kids of their own, and he was a therapist. So, they were able to work with her, and it was fine. The mom still came and visited, and I'm not really for sure why this arrangement ended. I think it just became too much for him.
Well, I mean, Genie was a very intense child to try to raise, because you're not just raising a teenage girl, you're teaching a teenage girl how to be a person.
Right, and so you've got that going on. She also had lots and lots and lots of emotional scars. Like, not just they have to teach this poor girl how to use the bathroom. Oh, it's puberty, so you've got to teach her what to do about menstruation. She's got to learn how to bathe herself. She's got to learn how to dress herself. She's got to learn how to potty. She's got to learn how to communicate with you. She's got to learn how to feed herself. But in addition to that, she's a very scared kid. She's terrified. So in 75, she was 18, and the mother was like, okay, I'll take care of her. Oh yeah, that's why she left the Wrigglers. So the mom took custody of her. But that didn't last long, because, like we said, she is a high needs kid, and the mom couldn't do it.
I'm wondering about what. Never mind. I know that social service is all about reunification, even if sometimes it's really not in the child's best interest to be reunified with family.
Right. I know enough social workers to know that
it weighs on them too.
Yes.
Yeah. The state thought, well, her mom can see now. Her mom is out of the relationship with her father. She's somewhat steady on her feet.
Right, because, we didn't mention that, but after the parents got arrested, the dad committed suicide. And in his suicide note, it just said people just wouldn't understand. And the mom was found not guilty because she herself was abused and
Mentally not right at this point.
right. So the mom was able to get cataract surgery, and that took care of her vision, so she was able to see again. The son, because we mentioned that Genie had an older brother, by the time that Genie was found and all this, the son had ran away from home.
I wonder what he's doing now.
I don't
I wonder
know.
if he is okay.
Um,
I've not found any reference to him after that. So,
yeah,
if
I
any of our
haven't
listeners
either.
knows what happened to Genie's older brother, write in and let me know because I'm seriously concerned about this boy. I want to know. I need to know if he is okay.
So Genie's mom couldn't handle her, so she gave her back and put her back into the foster system. But the next foster home that she went to was awful. And at one point they told her she vomited when she was eating because she still had dysphagia, so she had difficulty swallowing. And the foster mom told her that if she puked one more time, that she was going to pinch her mouth and never let her see her mom again. So she just stopped eating. She wouldn't open her mouth for fear that she was going to puke.
Yeah, and honestly, they should have pulled her license to have foster children. You do not say something like that. You don't say something like that to a child, let alone a child who has went through such serious emotional abuse.
I know.
The foster mom should have known that would have flipped a switch in Jeannie's mind and set her back.
They shouldn't have put her in a home with somebody who wasn't capable of caring
Exactly.
the needs. And I mean, this was the settings are different now, but it just, I don't know, just makes me so mad. So I mean, like we said, now Genie is an adult and she is living in a nursing home, and they're not saying where it is or anything, but it is somewhere in California.
Yeah, and for the most part, everything, she's okay. Her mother passed away in 87.
I just feel like, I understand the need to study her, but I don't think it was gone about the right way at all. I just don't think her welfare was top priority.
No, and I really don't think that studying her so intensely would be legal
Oh yeah, I don't think
today.
that it would either. So you said that you found cases of other feral kids?
Yes. Jeannie is not the only, feral child.
Yeah, so she's only like 61-ish, yeah.
One-ish.
Well, she's still so young. Wow.
In May of 1972, in the forest of Musafirkhana, no idea where that is. And as I said, in May of 1972, this boy was found playing with wolf cubs.
Oh, that's the life.
Like Mowgli style. And he had actually developed characteristics of a wolf. He had sharpened his teeth, his fingernails had grown long and was kind of hookish, kind of like claws. From, just he used them to claw things. He had calluses on his palms, on his knees, and on his elbows from walking on all fours. He was actually, when he was found, they was able to teach him sign language to communicate. He never learned how to speak.
Yeah, that was kind of with Genie, is that she did learn some words. She was never able to have that language explosion that kids usually get at 2.
Yeah, I think after you go so long, you just can't form those words. It's the same reason why learning a foreign language is easier for children than it is for adults.
It is a critical period in development, and if you miss it, you kind of just miss it.
This boy was eventually admitted to the Mother Teresa Home for the Destitute and Dying, where he was given the name Pascal, and he passed away in 1985.
Oh, that's so sad. So this story may seem similar, may seem very familiar to you because just this last week, another family in California was found to have 13 kids ranging in age from 29 down to, I don't know, maybe, I don't know how the youngest was, 6,
I think the youngest was an infant.
chained up in their bedroom. But the 17-year-old, who they thought was 10 because she was so emaciated, was able to escape the house and find a cell phone from someone, and she called police, rescuing the rest of them. The parents, David Allen Turpin was 57 and Louise Anna Turpin was 49, and they were charged with torture and child endangerment, and they're on a $9 million, being held on a $9 million bail. So this is really awful. Like 7 of the kids were younger than 18, so could be school age-ish. And the dad, well, I'm not going to blame it all on the dad. The parents had filed for their home to be registered as a private school, Sandcastle Day School, and it had 6 kids enrolled. And those 6 students was one in 5th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade. Yeah, David Turpin's parents, they were dumbfounded that this was happening. They had no idea.
Apparently the family had like and by family I mean the parents, had grand ideas of some Duggar-esque
that
reality show.
God told them to just keep having kids, and they dressed all of the children alike. So everywhere they went, they were all dressed alike. I mean, there's pictures of them all wearing blue polo shirts. There's pictures of them at their parents' vow renewal in 2013. And all the girls are wearing purple plaid dresses.
Well, I follow a YouTube channel, and they all dress a lot.
But neighbors didn't even know that there were kids that lived there. I mean, I don't even know when they got locked up, because, I mean, there's pictures of them out, like at the vow renewal in 2013. Photo ops or something. They went to Disney in 2011.
Pretty much. So they were not as extreme as Genie.
Oh wait, they had a vow renewal 3 different times, 2011, 13, and 15. God, I mean, like, really?
How many times are you going to renew your vows? Okay, sorry. The channel I watch is called Andrea Mills. They have a large family. They dress their kids alike. But they're not weirdly cultish. She homeschools, and they live in like rural Montana. It's a fun YouTube channel, and yeah, definitely not cultish. She said that it just sort of sprung out that they started wearing the same clothes. And
I could just tell you what would happen if I said, "Hey girls, we're going to start dressing alike."
Well, now the girls don't dress identical to each other, but every day the family has a color. And they wear that color.
That wouldn't go over well in my house either.
She says it really helps when they're like, out in a crowd. She can spot which one's hers immediately.
I mean, I can see that. And when we go to Kings Island, there are lots of families there with matching shirts on. Although that one family with the neon yellow, that was like, oh God. But I mean, yes, I understand that if you're going somewhere big for the day, wearing matching shirts. I mean, heck, I did it when I taught. If we were having a field trip day, we would all wear our, like, a field trip shirt that was like whatever color, and it would have the name of our school on it. But I don't know. I'm not about the whole matching your kids once they're old enough to pick out their own clothes.
Yeah. And I think Andrea said in one of her videos that when the kids hit a certain age, if they don't want to wear the matching color, they don't have to. But most of them keep doing it anyway. I guess in tradition.
I guess. But don't expect that to happen around here.
So what you're saying is that we all can't wear matching clothes?
I mean, we can if, like, we have family pictures done. And so I've got a picture of all 4 of us wearing Star Wars shirts, and then the next year we all had on monogrammed Christmas shirts that was the same style. But I mean, I don't know. Like,
I think
other
that
than something like
I
that,
think for this Christmas we all need to do flaming deer carcass shirts.
we should. Abby's band. I mean, how many different wedding dresses does somebody need? I like weddings as much as the next person. I used to joke that's why I got married so much. But I don't know. I never wanted to renew my vows. That's just ridiculous.
I don't understand it. Of course, I don't understand the whole wedding thing anyway. Okay, so another story I found was the Syrian Gazelle Boy. And this story goes in the 60s. Anthropologist Jean-Claude Auger, I'm probably saying his name wrong,
Of course.
was traveling in around Rio de Oro, and he met a community of nomads, and they told him about a feral child that they had saw about a day's ride away.
Okay.
So, of course, being an anthropologist, he took off as fast as he could in that direction.
Right, yeah.
And he said that he could see on the horizon this naked child galloping amongst the gazelles. He walked on all fours, but would occasionally stand upright to walk. The anthropologist said that the fact that he could walk upright fairly decently made him think that the child was probably already walking to some extent when he became lost or discarded.
Yeah,
I hate even using the term discarded when I hate even using the term discarded when talking about children. But
yeah, but if you lose your, like, okay, I'm sorry, but if I am in the wilderness or whatever and I lose my child, I'm gonna look for them until I find them. Actually, I'm just not going to take my kid somewhere like that they're going to get lost. He probably was able to walk because Genie never did have that. She never had a normal gait.
No, she walked like a bunny rabbit hopping.
Yeah, she had her hands out in front of her, almost like she was hanging onto like a chair rail. And she just did this weird hop walk thing.
Well, the gazelle boy was primarily a herbivore. He would eat roots and whatever vegetation he could find in the desert area that he lived, but would occasionally eat lizards raw. Just, snatch them up and eat them.
That's disgusting.
But unlike most feral children, this kid was never brought into society. There was a couple failed attempts to catch him. One was they attempted to drop a net on him from a helicopter, but all attempts to remove him from the herd of the gazelles he lived with, failed. And one more that I want to talk about is a boy that has been dubbed the Russian bird boy. For those of you who don't know, I know you really can't hear them on the episode. I have a house full of birds. I have a few parrots. I have a cage full of parakeets. I have a lot of birds. I would never treat a child like a bird. And that's what happened to this child. This happened in Volograd. A social worker, and I'm not 100% sure how she ended up, with this case, but discovered him in a house. The house was jam-packed with, it was just a tiny little 2-room apartment. It was jam-packed with bird cages. Dozens and dozens of birds of various types.
So basically my nightmare.
Bird droppings all over the floor. Bird feed everywhere. And in the midst of all of this was this little 7-year-old boy who could only communicate by chirping.
Okay.
Chirping. Like a bird. Because his mother treated him like he was one of her birds. He was well fed, he was taken care of and all of that, but she just treated him like one of her birds. She made sure that his needs were met. as far as food and, shelter and all that. I mean, like, I would do my birds. I make sure my birds, are taken care of, but he didn't know any language other than the birds talking to each other. My parents probably had a better grasp of vocabulary than this 7-year-old did. And I have one bird that can only say "pick me."
What are you picking it for?
Every time I make my birds this vegetable mix called chop. Every time he sees me mixing it up, he starts screaming, "Pick me! Pick me!" Meaning he wants to be the first one to get the bite.
Aww.
Yeah. I mean, he actually can say more things than that, but "pick me" is probably, like, the most heard phrase here. I have one bird that will call my dog in just to taunt him. She'll go, "Nigo! Nigo! Nigo!" My birds have a better language than the 7-year-old did. And this happened
so awful.
Recently, like 2008, I believe.
Damn, that's really.
Yeah. He is in a mental hospital in Russia getting treatment. And I mean, honestly, he's 7, and he was well taken care of. As far as physical needs, he wasn't physically, malnourished or anything, so he might be able to bounce back from this. But he will always have some issues. In 2006, a 4-year-old boy was found living on the streets with a pack of dogs in the city of Stavropol in Russia.
See, we've got animals that are better than people.
It took social workers 3 weeks before they were able to catch this boy. He only barks. Barking is his only form of communication. And he walks on all fours. I think Russia has actually had a few more cases of Mowgli syndrome feral children. And Mowgli syndrome is more of where they are raised by animals. Gazelles, dogs, wolves, birds. As opposed to Genie, who was just neglected to the point of being feral. And it's sad that we're at a point where we have different distinctions among feral children. Feral children shouldn't exist in the first place.
I know.
I don't understand it. I don't know why people have children that they know they are not in a position to take care of.
I wonder that all the time. What, do you have a stupid criminal?
Not a stupid criminal. I have a horrible criminal that I guess kind of goes perfectly along with our topic tonight.
Okay.
This happened in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. So I'm sorry, Florida, we're picking on you yet again. But it really seems like all the stupid people are moving to Florida.
They're all moving from Kentucky, I'm sure of it.
Jenny Long and her husband, Robert Long, had a 13-year-old son.
Okay.
And they started a GoFundMe campaign for him to raise money to help treat his brain cancer.
Okay, let me guess. He did not have brain cancer.
Nope. Did not have brain cancer. This couple set up a t-shirt fundraiser at his school, was, trying to raise money through various means, and for 8 months they convinced this child that he was dying of brain cancer so that they could make some money.
That's horrible.
It really is. According to medical records, he has absolutely no brain tumors. He is a perfectly healthy 13-year-old boy.
Please tell me that they got arrested.
They did, and they are going to go to trial, and hopefully they are found guilty and spend some time in the pokey.
Good.
Because people like that shouldn't be allowed in society. And hopefully, by the time they're out of jail, their son is an adult and doesn't have to go back to their home.
Yeah, that would be awful.
I just think, when I hear cases like that, I think about that little boy that was in Emmy's class that died of cancer.
Yeah. Emmy had a rough elementary school time. She had her best friend died of a brain aneurysm, and actually right before this all happened in a year.
Christmas break,
a little boy in her class goes in. He has I think he had leukemia. He had something. He had some form of cancer, and I don't remember what kind it was. But he went in to have part of it removed, and the doctors punctured something vital, and he died on the table. So I wish she was in here so that she could tell the story, because she remembers it and him so much better than I do. But she came. I remember, like, she came home going off to Christmas, like Christmas break was happening, and she was telling me all about his surgery and how he's going to come back after Christmas, and he did not come back after Christmas. And then right when school ended, her best friend had the brain aneurysm, and I was just like, that was a rough year for them.
Way more than little kids should have to go through.
Oh yeah. 3rd grade? No way that needed to happen.
And I also, on Facebook, I always see people who are sharing GoFundMe's for children with cancer. And those parents shouldn't have to think, well, now people are not going to want to donate to help us in our time of need, because we got some fakers out there who are trying to use this system to make a quick buck.
Yeah. I mean, be a decent person. Don't lie.
I mean, personally, people shouldn't have to worry about losing everything to treat cancer. And people shouldn't have to worry about whether the donation they're making is going to some con artist. So, shame on you, Long family from Florida.
Okay. So, like we do at the end of every episode, like us, rate us, review us. If you've got a stupid criminal that you want to see us cover, you can send it to us at hauntedfamilypodcast@gmail.com.
It doesn't have to be from Florida. It can be from anywhere.
It can be from anywhere. If you have a story that you want us to cover, you can drop us a line and tell us that also. If you would like to start a podcast, we highly recommend Podbean, because we have tried others in the past, and we just found Podbean to be everything that you could possibly want. You can have however long your episodes are. So if we ever do another 3-hour Kurt Cobain episode, Podbean has us covered. It has great analytics. We are able to see our highest downloaded state, our highest downloaded episode. We're able to see all of that in one location. It's super easy to upload. It integrates with our YouTube channel. We have a great website out of it. I mean, really, Podbean has everything that you could possibly want.
Yes. And if you want to start a podcast, but you're kind of confused about how to start a podcast, I have something for you. You need to check...
You do?
I do. They need to check out a little piece of the internet called cathairandglitterblog.com.
What? I feel like I've been there before. Like
you write it?
I feel like I probably would write that. Yeah.
Yes. Holly started a multi-part series on her blog called How to Start a Podcast. Her first installment... Sorry.
My first installment was...
I'm still sick.
That's okay. The first installment was things that you should ask yourself before you get started. So it was all of those little things that we didn't think to work out before we decided to jump in and buy microphones. Then the second installment was, what equipment would I say you need just to get started? And I have not written the third installment yet, but I will be doing that. This is a really crazy busy week for us. So if I don't get it up by this week, it will definitely be up by next week. I think I've got maybe 2 or 3 more installments of it before I'm finished. So yeah, if you want to check out Cat Hair and Glitter blog, and just I'm just trying to help you get started, because our beginning was so rough, and I don't want anybody to have to go through that.
And it was so hard to find a concise source on the internet that told us what we wanted to know without all of this filler crap.
Right. I mean, every place that I went to for information, it was pretty much try to sell us stuff, and I'm not selling you anything. I just, I mean, I guess technically I am promoting Podbean, and if you use our affiliate code Haunted Family PB, we do get a small percentage from it. But if you don't,
we're not selling
use Podbean.
Yeah, we're not selling you a how to podcast
No,
self-published book or video series or whatever. We just want we want to bring more people into the podcasting family.
Right, because we love podcasts. We love to listen to them. We subscribe to lots of podcasts in lots of different genres too, not just true crime and paranormal. We want to listen to you, and I want you to not have such a rough start that we did. So if I can help one person, then that's great. I want to help you. So I will probably put the link to the individual episodes. I'll probably put those in our show notes. So if you want to click on it without having to read my Super Bowl rant or any of the other junk I write about, yeah, you can avoid all of that and just get right down to what you're there for.
But it's a good not a good podcast. It is a good blog about podcasting.
I mean, I don't know that I would say it's a good blog. I am probably the least professional blogger ever because, well, it's not my job, nor do I get any money from it.
I respect people who can make blogging their profession and can make a living
I do not have
at
the
it.
dedication or the discipline. I just don't. But I mean, good for you. I wished that I had that kind of self-discipline, but I do not. All right. Well, that's all I've got for today. So anyway, we hope that you stay warm and healthy and avoid this cold or flu or strep or stomach virus or whatever is going around in your area. We hope you don't get it. So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.